गोप्या कामात् भयात् कंसो द्वेषाश्चैद्यादयो नृपा संबंधाद Vrishnya Snehad Yujam Bhaktya Vayam Vibho. My dear King Yudhishthir, the gopis by the lusty desires, the Kamsa by his fear, the Shishupal and other kings by their envy, the Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, and you Pandavas have great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna. प्रह्लादुवाच तत्साधुमन्ये सुरवर्यदेहिनां सदा समुद्विग्नदिहाम सत्ग्रहतित्वात्मपातं ग्रह अन्धकूपं वनं गतो यद्धरिमाश्रयेत. Prahlad Maharaj said, O best of the demons, O king of the asuras, as far as I have learned from a spiritual master, a person who accepts a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because having fallen into a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. So one must give up this position and goes to the forest. One more clearly, one should goes to Vrindavan where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent and thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prahladuvacha Shavanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktischen Navalakshana Kriyet Bhagavati Adya Tanmanne Adhitam Uttamam. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting of the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with the 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers unto the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord as one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him, or in other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes, as accepted as pure devotional service, one who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna by these 9 methods is to be understood as most learned person, for his acquired complete knowledge. Paladuvacha Matirna Krishne Parata Svatova Mitho Vipaddet Graha Vratanam Adant Govir Vishatam Tamisram Punap Punashcharvita Charvadanam. Prahlad Maharaj said, because of their uncontrolled senses, person too addicted to materialistic life make progress toward hellish conditions and repeatedly chewed which has already been chewed. Their inclinations toward Krishna are never aroused either by the instruction of others, by their own efforts, or by the combination of both. नाते विदु स्वार्थ गतिम हि विष्णुम दुराशया ये बहिरर्थमानिना अंधायतेरंधेरुपनीयमानास्ते पीशतंत्रा मुर्दाम निबद्धा. Person who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life, who is therefore accepted as the leader or guru, a similar blind man attached to external sense objects, does not know the goal of the life is to return home back to Godhead and serving the Lord Vishnu. A blind man guided by another blind man misses the right path and falls into a ditch, and materially attached man led by another materially attached man are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. Nesham matistavadurukramangram spashartyanartha pagmo yadartha mayesam padarjo bhishekam nishkinchananam navranit yavat. Unless one smears upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, completely freed from material contamination, persons who are too much inclined toward materialistic life cannot attach to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified by his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can one become completely freed from material contamination. Prahlad Uvacha Kaumaram Acharit Pragyo Dharman Bhagavata Durlabham Manusham Janma Tadapya Adruvam Arthadam. Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body, or in the beginning One who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of life right from the beginning of his life, or in other words, from the tender age of his childhood. Practice the activities of devotional service and giving up all other engagements. This human body is very rare. This human form of body is very rarely achieved. Although it is temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because one can perform devotional service in human form of life. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. प्रह्लादुवाच ब्रह्मादया सुरगना मुनिवत सिद्धा सत्त्वे कथानकतयो वचसं प्रवाहे नरादितुं पुरुगणैरधुनापि पिप्रू किं तोष्टुमर्हति समय हरिरुग्रजाते. Prahlad Maharaj prayed, how is it possible for me, who have been born in the family of Asuras, to offer prayers to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Even until now, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord by streams of their excellent words. Although they are very qualified and situated in the mode of goodness, then what is to be said of me? I am not at all qualified. बालस्य नेह शरणं पितरो नरसिंहा नर्तस्य चागदम् उदरमति मज्जतो नो तप्तस्य तत्प्रतिविधिर्या इहञ्ज श्रेष्ठस्तावत् विभो तनुभृतां तवदपेक्षितानाम्. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Narsimha, because of bodily conception of life, embodied souls neglected and not cared for by you cannot do anything for their betterment. Whatever remedies they accept, perhaps temporary beneficial, are certainly impermanent. For example, a mother or father cannot protect their child. A physician and medicine cannot relieve the suffering patient. And on the ocean, the boat cannot protect the drowning man. कुत्र शिशाश्रुति सुखामृग तृष्णिरूपा क्वेदं कलेवरम अशेषुजाम विरोहा निर्विद्यते न तु जनो यदपीति विद्वान कामानलम मधुल वैषम्यन दुरापे. In this material world, every living entity desires some future happiness, which is exactly like a mirage in the desert. Where is water in the desert, or in other words, where is happiness in this material world? As for this body, what is its value? It is merely a source of various diseases. The so-called philosophers, scientists, politicians know this very well, but nonetheless they aspire for temporary happiness. Happiness is very difficult to obtain because they are unable to control their senses. They are running after the so-called happiness of this material world and never come to the right conclusion. एवं जन्म निपतितं प्रभवाहि कूपे कामा विकामम अनुया प्राप्तन प्रसंगात कृत्वात्मसा सुरार्शिना भगवान गृहीता सो अहम कथम नु विसजेत भृत्य सेवाम. O my Supreme Lord, O Narsimhadev, because of association with material desires one after another, I am gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, followed by general populace. But your servant Narad Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How I could leave his service? Hare Krishna.